welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning into another video. Excuse the mess. I was going to do my hair and then I couldn't be honest, if I'm completely honest with you. Even though I did have it cut and coloured last week, so it actually is looking better than it has in a long time. But anyway, standard chucking up in a ponytail situation. So yeah, so this video is going to be all about what to do after you've got your period. So I've done quite a few videos now on how I got my period back, things like nutrition, exercise, dealing with weight gain, but probably what I've not touched on quite so much of is actually what do you do once you've got your period back, which to me is actually just as important as all the things that you do before you get your period back. And actually I think in a way, it's almost the hardest part. Not obviously getting your period back is probably the most challenging, but in some respects, you know exactly what you're working towards and you've got a really clear goal and you know what you want. And then once you've got it, it's a bit like, what do I do now? Because then it's like, actually, I've achieved it. And it's so easy to then just sort of think, oh, now I'm absolutely fine. I can do whatever I want. And the reality is that's just not the case. So yeah, I'm just going to go through a few different things that I've continued to do since getting my period back, some things that I've heard can help in maintaining your period and keeping your cycle regular. And I'm now I'm now 7 months post getting my period back, and I still feel very much part of the HA community, HA journey. I still almost don't feel like I'm in that bracket of, right, HA was something I've had, I've moved on, everything's fine in the world. And I very much, yeah, like I say, I very much still feel like I'm kind of amongst it all. And I think that's because I'm being so cautious and conscious of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it, just to make sure that I do keep my period back. And also just to make sure that my mindset is in the right place, really. So initially for me, once I got my period back, I knew that all the research suggested that you should wait at least 3 months before you make any changes. So apparently, according to the research, once a woman's had 3 cycles, their body is classed as being recovered. And I think that's partly because often those first 3 cycles can be a bit random, a bit sporadic. It often takes your body a few months just to kind of get into its proper rhythm and cycle. So for those first 3, I didn't change a single thing. I continued to eat in a surplus. I maintained the 4 sessions of gentle exercise a week. Once I'd had 3 cycles, I then, I suppose, backed off eating probably over what I felt I needed. So I was very much eating in a surplus. I would be eating when I wasn't hungry. I would be eating more than I felt I needed. Because I knew how important that was for me to get my period back. And I also, like I said, wanted to make sure for those 3 periods that I kept things exactly the same. And then once I'd had the 3, I decided to almost try to eat a little bit more intuitively again. So rather than eating all the time, every 5 minutes, eating, like I say, way over above the calories I needed, I tried to do more of an intuitive eating style, eating when I was hungry, but still being mindful about what I was eating. So obviously ensuring I was still keeping a really high amount of carbs in my diet, a high amount of healthy fats in my diet, and also keeping a rough check on calories. So I knew if, for example, I went back to completely intuitively eating and not thinking about calories at all, I could quite easily slip to reducing almost 400 calories overnight. And obviously I knew from my body that wouldn't be a good thing. So I did still keep a bit of structure. So I still knew roughly what I was trying to hit throughout meals. But I just, like I said, I did it in a much more intuitive way. So if I really did feel full, but knew maybe I hadn't quite hit like 2,500 calories, that would be absolutely fine because I was no longer trying to hit that. But I still did try to kind of almost aim for around 2,300, 400. I, at the time, obviously didn't know whether that would be a maintenance for me, whether that would still be a surplus, whether that would even be a slight deficit. So I did continue to weigh myself, and that's something I'd done from the beginning, because although I know for some girls this might be quite triggering, for me I used it as a tool, I used it as data. So like I said, I kind of went back to a little bit more of a intuitive style approach by being slightly mindful, but probably was eating slightly less. And I kept recording my weight just to make sure that I didn't all of a sudden slip into a deficit and start reducing and start to lose weight. And what I found was I didn't do that at all. I pretty much just maintained. So once I got my period back, and for those 3 months, I was still probably in quite a bit of a surplus and still continued to gain weight. But I would say since January, following 3 cycles, I obviously, like I said, went to intuitive eating. I tracked my body weight and it just basically stayed around the same amount. So I then knew that around 2,300 calories was pretty much my maintenance calories. So that means my maintenance calories had changed from being 2,000 calories pre-HA to around 2,300, 2,400 post-HA, which is obviously great. So I just basically continued to do that. I did slowly start to increase the intensity of my exercise, but I did this really slowly. It did help being in a lockdown and only being able to do home workouts, because it meant that I couldn't push myself too far because I didn't have the weights to do that. And it was easier just to not get carried away, whereas I think in the gym, it's sometimes harder to pull yourself back when you've got all the equipment there. You're obviously in the gym atmosphere, it's easier to get carried away. So being in a lockdown really did help me actually just to keep those kind of things under check. Everything else I still tried to do. I still tried to prioritize things like sleep. I still continued yoga. Just being mindful really of what my body was wanting, what was needing, when I needed more rest days. Over a few months, I would make sure I did deload weeks, so I'd actually take complete weeks off the gym. And this, I think, was really important for me because I could almost tell when my body was feeling like, oh, is this too much? Is this not? And in February, I did have quite a long cycle. I've mentioned it in a few of my videos. And I think this was because my body was craving a deload week. And although I hadn't gone crazy and massively increased the intensity, I had increased it, was probably hovering at maintenance calories, and hadn't really accounted for that. And so I had a complete week off the gym. My cycle came that week, and then I've been fine ever since. And since then, I've also taken another deload week. So I really do prioritize those every 4 or 5 weeks. I'll make sure I have pretty much a week off the gym, maybe do the odd 1 or 2 sessions if I want to, but I would do it at a really low weight. I'm now, I would say, back to, so this is 7 months post HA, I'm now pretty much back to the highest intensity I've probably been since before I recovered, so since before I started my kind of all-in journey. In terms of I'm lifting at the max that I can lift, I'm really pushing my body, and that's because I've got new goals. I want to increase the strength, I want to increase my muscle, and so far, touch wood, so obviously we've been back in the gyms now for a few weeks. Probably by the time this goes out, it'll be more like a month. And I really have been testing my body, but actually I feel so good for it. And I think that's the most important thing, is being able to realise what's too much for your body and actually what your body can cope with. And I've got loads of energy. I feel like I'm recovering from my workouts. I'm listening, like I say, when I feel like I need a rest day, I'll take a rest day. If I feel too tired, I won't work out. But actually when I feel great, I train to the max. I train as hard as I can train. And touch wood, I've been absolutely fine with that. I think one of the most important things post-period recovery is maintaining that mindset. I think it is really easy to slip back into negative thoughts about yourself, or, thinking, oh, could I just do this? Could I just do that? And every time I've had a little thought like that, or, oh, maybe, do I want to lose a little bit of weight? Do I want to be slimmer again? I treat that as a negative thought and I turn it around and think, actually, what do I want long term? Do I want to keep my period? Do I want to feel healthy? Do I want to feel...
Oh, just choked on the coffee.
Yeah, do I want to feel happy? And actually, if I feel all those things now, why would I want to change that? So yes, I have those thoughts, but I kind of knock them to one side. It's that clear mindset shift of no longer looking at yourself, punishing your body, no longer hinging your self-worth on your diet, your exercise, your, like I say, how you look. My self-worth, my mindset is all about those positive changes that have come from the weight gain, and it's all about being the best version of myself, and that really is about me wanting to get like strong as fuck, pardon the language, and changing those goals to strength-based for me, building muscle, all those things are now what's important to me, rather than how I look or, you know, what size clothing I can get into. With nutrition, it's about getting to a point where there's no longer any rules around food. So little things like just never skipping meals. I mean, I never did that anyway, but making that sort of thing a priority, if that was something you used to do, just making sure that's a new habit, that you never skip meals. For me, it's always eating before I exercise. Like, that is massively important. For me, it's when I go out for a meal, eating 3 courses if I want to eat 3 courses. It's not looking at the low calorie options because, you know, if I eat this, I don't know how many calories are in it, and then, gosh, am I going to gain weight after one meal? Or any of those stupid thoughts that I maybe previously would have thought. It's about, I don't have any of those now. And that's how I know my mindset has completely changed. I no longer have any rules. If I fancy bread 5 times within a day, I'll eat bread 5 times within a day. If I want to eat cake for breakfast, I'll eat cake for breakfast. I don't have any guilt or any negative connotations with food at all anymore. And I think when you get to that place where food no longer controls you, but you kind of control your own food without control, if that makes sense, then you know you're in a good place. And again, that comes with a loss of anxiety around food. So I never used to recognise it in myself, but looking back, I definitely had anxiety around food. I definitely had anxiety when I went out for meals. I had anxiety when I couldn't control what I ate, so going to other people's houses. It wasn't severe, and like I've said before, I've never had an eating disorder, but actually the anxiety was still there. I no longer have any anxiety around food. I no longer have any thoughts about, you know, what somebody else is going to cook me for dinner or what's on the menu or this. I just don't have any of that. I guess that's one of the ultimate goals coming out of HA, is again having no anxiety around food, no anxiety around exercise, not seeing exercise as a punishment, not being anxious if you've not worked out for 3 days in a row or a week. I mean, if you had told me 6-7 months ago, you know, after you've got your period back, you'll feel fine to have a deload week, to not train for a week. You'll feel fine to maybe go to the gym 3 times a week if that's all you can fit in, or you've just happened to have a couple of bad nights sleep that week. You'll be happy with that because actually that's what your body needs that week. I would have probably laughed at you, because then there was no such thing for me as rest weeks. I never took a deload week in probably, gosh, training solid leave probably for about 5 years. I never took a deload week. I went on holiday, so I suppose in that sense, when I had a couple of holidays, I wouldn't train. But actually, even on holiday, I would still every other day do a run or some form of exercise. Part of me did that because I loved it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't always out of a place of negativity. Part of me just loves that, so I would still do that on holiday. But I think I did it because I was also scared not to. I was scared of the repercussions of not exercising for a week. When obviously there are no repercussions, but I didn't know that at that time, whereas now I know that's actually how your body grows, that's actually how you progress. My strength has massively improved, and I've noticed a massive difference in the muscle I'm building since getting my period back, and I think that's because I'm giving my body the rest it needs to recover, to grow. Obviously, I'm eating way more than I ever was, so I have the energy for my sessions. I see food as fuel now, so I see it as how much food can I eat because I want to go smash out an awesome session at the gym. Whereas I kind of almost saw it as the opposite previously. It was like almost, well, I've been at the gym, so I don't want to eat too much, because then it kind of undoes. Anyway, if you know what I mean, it kind of affects what you've done in the gym, which is ridiculous. But again, it's all these little things that you might be going through as well, and I've gone through before. And it's to know that your mindset can completely shift. And I almost hardly recognise myself then as to the changes that are now. I'm really different in terms of my approach with health and fitness in general. I think it's looking out for signs that HA could return and being aware of those and being mindful of those. Are you all of a sudden wanting to be leaner? Are you all of a sudden starting to control your food, think too much about calories in a negative way? Are you starting to over-exercise again? Are you thinking too much about your body in a negative way? And I think it's being mindful of those things. And if you are looking at, do you need more help? Do you need help from a coach if you were seeing one, from a therapist if you were seeing one? Just talking through with family and friends and trying to re-educate yourself on why you got your period back and actually how you felt before versus how you felt afterwards. And just reminding yourself of those positive things will keep you on the right track. And to know, I hope in a year's time that it won't even be a thought to me about whether my period will come every month on time, because it'll just be a completely normal thing for me, so that I won't even have to think about, and I will maintain where I'm at now. And that's what I'm hoping, that I won't have to have those conscious thoughts about making sure I eat enough food even when I'm eating intuitively. But I think it's good to still keep those thoughts at the back of your mind for a good period of time while your body is still adjusting and it's still working itself out, basically, in terms of what it can handle. So I think true recovery comes when you recognise negative impulses, negative thoughts, you push them away, and you continue to nourish and you continue to support your body's health in the way that ensures that it is the best that it can be. Your health is the best that it can be. And I think that's when you kind of know you've kind of conquered HA almost, is that the most important thing to you is how can you nourish your body? How can you keep your body healthy? And that comes without even conscious thought. And that's what I want to get to. Like I say, hopefully in a year's time, I'll be completely there. And I feel like I almost am. But I think for a good period of time, you need to be mindful of those things just so that you don't slip into those bad habits. And that's where I'm at now. So I would say I'm currently still eating around 2,300, 400 with the occasional probably surplus as well, because actually, like I say, I'm wanting to try and build muscle. So I'm probably hovering at around between a maintenance and a surplus, but quite a small surplus now, I would say. And I know that because I actually have gained a little bit more weight again recently. But it's quite steady, so I know that actually I'm probably in a surplus some of the time and maintenance some of the time, and it's kind of working itself out. And that's just how I want to be. That's because my goals are focused on building muscle and building strength. But if you don't have those goals, you could quite easily just stick at maintenance, and your body should be fine with that, because your body should be at your kind of happy set point weight for you. So like I say, these things are just things that I've learned along the way that are specific to me, but hopefully you can kind of relate to it. And if you haven't got your period back yet, just to know that actually 6-7 months down the line, you can also feel like the happiest, healthiest, strongest, most energized, all the other positive words, a version of yourself that you can be. And equally, if you have got your period, just knowing these things that can help maintain it, so that a year, 2 years down the line, it's just not even something you think about. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Also, I just actually missed talking about HA, so some of my recent videos have been more recipe and food related. So I just thought I'd do another little sit down video. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about, or any other ideas on HA videos. That would be amazing if you could just leave any comments below. And as always, if you liked this video and you could like and also subscribe, that would be amazing, as that's how I can reach other people. And I've really set myself a goal, which I now know is probably a bit ridiculous, to try and hit 1K subscribers by the end of June. So if you could help me even get slightly closer to that, then that would be amazing, and I thank you so much. But you know what, if not,
I'm okay with that.
okay with the idea of me not getting to 1K, not with you not subscribing. And I'll catch you in the next video.